Good morning and welcome to the Saturday special of Dr. Lamba's Awakening Call. Quite some few years ago, I asked a friend of mine who is a teacher to ask her students what is right and what is wrong. How do you differentiate? And she did ask. And she told me later on that all the students were puzzled, confused, and nonplussed. They could not understand the question itself. They were under the impression that the question related to their textbook, to the classrooms. And when they were told that it had nothing to do with their classwork, but it related to life, would you believe that almost all of them had no opinion at all? Asking such a question is a very old-fashioned thing to do. I agree. The system of asking questions vanished in the era of Socrates, Plato, and Aristotle. And here possibly in the times of Panchtantra, when the students and the children and the people asked questions. And now we do not talk of abstract things. And I'm sure that if this question, what is right and what is wrong, is asked from the parents, from the grown-up, from adults like you would be equally confused and then come out with this parrot-like old things. Speaking truth is right, telling lies is wrong, stealing is wrong. And those are clever homilies and are not based on the personal experience. At least in that aspect, kids are much more honest than the grown-ups are. When you look at the news of the today, what do you see? A depressing exercise in the plumbing of depths of the human depravity. Rape not only of the grown-up girls, teenage girls, but of the infants, of the non-agrarians and all ages between. And not only rape, murder, fraud, callousness, cruelty, abandonment. And have we entered into an era of corrupt, immoral, deviant, sordid, debased, reprobate, unprincipled behavior? Yes, we have. And the reason for that is that we have forgotten the difference between right and wrong. Today, morality has a very negative connotation. And it is deemed repressive, hypocritical, and best left to the homilies from the pulpit. We pose to be religious. We pose to be moral, go to the gurdwaras, mosques, temples, church, synagogue. And what do? We go there, come back, as corrupt as we were, because we do not live by the values. We talk of the values, we don't live by them. And we mostly think that morality is something to do with the premarital sex. That was at one time a prime concern of the Catholic Church and the schools, and in the Indian society, unless you are a virgin, you are bad. At the simplest and the broadest, morality is between right and wrong. Some things are basically wrong, whichever society may be. Whatever the era may have been, a wrong and a right are immutable. As a matter of fact, what has happened is that we have linked morality to religion, which is wrong. In fact, morality is secular and is often left to the tender mercies of the corrupt clergy of all faiths. That needs to be articulated. And once you are able to separate morality from the religion, then you become a real human being. Laws of implementations are weak, but why don't we try it? What we have done is we are allowing morality to be dictated by the law, which is not done. Morality is to be dictated by your conscience, the constable placed within you, and not by an outside agency. But we depend more on the outside agencies than the cop within us. A few years back, death penalty was abolished everywhere. And now, in India, for example, they have brought in death penalty for the rape of the girls below the age of 18, of 12. Would it be a deterrent? As a matter of fact, the rapists now kill the girls rather than just raping them and let them go, because then there's no proof. There's no evidence that they have done it. They might be convicted of murder, they forget at that time. So, the rape and murder can be viewed matter-of-factly, and that's killing. And that is where right and wrong does. These people who are committing this rape do not know it is wrong. The body of another person, of another individual, is inviolable. What happens is, our justice system puts onus on the wrong. When a wrong is done, when an illegal act is done, either the justice let them go because of that old adage, which I don't subscribe to, let go 100 criminals, don't punish them, for the fear that one innocent may not be punished. No, that is not done. Guilty is a person who is guilty, and he should be punished. And only then would the people realize the difference between that. You know, there are two ways of understanding right and wrong. Either your moral values are so strong that you can differentiate between them and know what is right and what is wrong. Or there is an outside agency here, the law, which could tell you what to do. Now, coming back to that, why the people cannot understand the difference between the right and the wrong. And the most important is that it's again a lack of communication between the generations. We always call for more policing, better investigations, higher convictions, greater freedom. No, that's not required. If the children at the very beginning, in their formative years, are told what is right and what is wrong, they will develop into model parents. Now imagine, a child is told not to tell lies. It's wrong. And most of the parents are stupid enough to say it is a sin, which it is not. Telling a lie is not a sin, but it is wrong. Now what happens? Look at the scenario. Somebody comes to the house, rings the bell, and the child peeps out and tells the father, look at Papa. So and so is there on the door. Or tell him that Papa is not at home. The same father who a couple of hours earlier had told the son not to tell a lie is now telling the son to tell a lie. So what is the benefit of that education by that parent? Does that parent deserve to be a parent? A parent who goes back on what he was telling the child is not fit to be a parent. And that's where the crux is. You tell a child not to do something and then tell him again to do it because of the convenience. Why? I fail to understand that we as human beings, why is it that we are inclined to the criminal acts if there are no restraints? Now, if we know the difference between the right and wrong, then the absence of the policeman, the cop on the duty, would not be effective. Whether is there or not would be immaterial, because our inner conscience would be guiding us. Now, coming back to the lack of communication, we speak that the family should have quality time. The parents should have quality time with the parents. They are with them. But how many times do the parents spend some time telling the children the life skills, how to deal with the issue of right and wrong, which they are going to face in the workplace and the personal life? I remember a friend of mine. He teaches education to the teachers, training the trainers. Okay. And one question he asks always fluxes them. I mean, for example, you see a person hit by a car, you're going for an interview. Now, what would you do? Would you go for an interview, or would you attend to the injured person? Now, here's a right and wrong, very important. Both are equally important. You're getting a job is important, and you're attending to a human life, trying to save is important. And most of the people cannot address it. Most of them say, okay, I'll call 911 or here or 100 in India, the emergency services, and then go on my way. That's one way. Otherwise, I'll attend to the person. Maybe interview can be later on. The third person says, why should I be involved in this issue? It's none of my business. Well, accidents do take place. People do suffer. Can you imagine that if you are with a child, the child would always say, look here, this guy is suffering, let's help him. And you would say, no, we don't want to be involved in the other things. That can be a problem. How many times our children have seen us let something right, whether it's a dog being mistreated or an underage servant in the home standing all alone, deserted before her employers, exploited as a matter of fact, while the kids are eating and enjoying life. Then, when the children see this exploitation of the human beings, when the children see this disregard to the human beings, the abstract issue of right and wrong loses all meaning. Until and unless we are able to give some dignity to the human beings and regard people as human beings, all question of right and wrong has no meaning. And it's not only some parents, as a matter of fact, parents from all social levels and income levels suffer from the same disease, the disease of disregarding human values. Right and wrong is basically a question of your regard, your attention to the human values. Children learn from their families and the social circles. And if these social circles are not careful about right and wrong, no amount of the quality time, no amount of finger wagging from the teachers, no amount of the talk from the pulpit would have any meaning. And that is why, once the question of right and wrong loses, then the laws also become ineffective. As a matter of fact, we have got to change our fundamentals. We have got to consider and be clear about what is right and what is wrong. Are the words moral and legal synonymous? They should not be. If they are synonymous, then our tottering justice system would be the final deciding factor, which I don't believe should be there. The deciding factor should be your conscience, which has been educated right from the time you are born by teaching and by an example by the parents to differentiate between right and wrong. And once you are able to do it, you would see a life which is much more enjoyable, much more human, much more full of empathy and trust. And that's what we need. The question of right and wrong is dependent, again, on another point, how you ask a question and how the response is given to you. If you look at the teachings of Aristotle and Socrates, this was their questioning, their constant prodding that made people decide right, wrong, clearly. Why is it that in the olden days, what in the Hindu civilization we call Satya Yuga, the age of truth, people were honest. If Harishchandra, the Raja Harishchandra, who swore to tell the truth and didn't even care for the burial of his own dead son, could be in that age, even this age it's possible. But much depends on you. Take a decision that right from every second, you will not be dictated by any other reason except by the reason of right and wrong from the human values, guided, persuaded, prodded by your conscience. That way lies the salvation of this unjust world, cold, callous, criminal world. Let's become human beings. Let's not be animals. Animals don't know the difference. Maybe they know the difference between right and wrong better than we as human beings do. Let's be human beings. Can we be? Thank you.